Hey guys, so today you and I are going to talk about onboarding. So let's get into it. So the question in question was, Frederick, how important is the onboarding program for software engineers at a tech company? It's almost non-existent, I would say, if you ask how important is it to the people working in the company, and to a person like myself or someone who is like trying to do better in this area and sort of knows how valuable this is to someone who's starting, it's incredibly important. The person who's starting this is very, very important, but the vast majority of companies don't even have an onboarding program that is worth talking about, apart from maybe there's a plan for how to go and get your computer, but setting everything up and because usually the way we work in IT or in software development is that we have different teams, and each team is usually fairly in charge themselves of how to do things. And as you can imagine, the problem with that is that means that one team might have an onboarding guide and most of the others are not going to have it, because the reality is this, guys, and this is a lesson in human behavior. When you need it, it's really shitty of everybody to have not invested ahead of time and made sure that you had an easier time at it than what you have, because now you have to start from scratch. Then you learn the things that you need to survive, or you get yours, you get the thing that you need, right? And then, well, now you have yours. You know how to do the thing, or you have the money, or you have the whatever. Like, you are a haver. You don't need anything anymore. And then you kind of go and think, yeah, what am I going to do now? Because I'm not interested in sacrificing my convenience and time to make sure that the next person who's coming after me, who's going to have to go through the same journey, has an easier time. You just go ahead with you go about your business, which is the average human. And that's why you don't have onboarding programs, so you don't have people who think ahead of time and think about other people, in the sense that they take the time to make sure that there is an onboarding program, or a lot of other stuff in the world, by the by, because you simply don't care enough about making sure that other people have a good start, or that you provide the environment, because it no longer affects you. You don't you perceive yourself as not benefiting from it. You're too lazy, etc., etc. It's all kinds of reasons behind it. And so the reason why I like to think that I've done a better job in this area than most is because I know myself well enough to know what I have to do to make sure that an onboarding program exists. And I've found a way of doing it so that it actually is maintained and it actually gets created without a lot of hassle. And since the effort for me to create it is equal to that of me learning myself, it's actually very simple. So the way I usually do it is very simple. When I start in a new team, and when I usually take over a team, when I'm going to start an onboarding program, it doesn't have to be that I'm going to be the team lead. I'm just starting. I know that there's probably not going to be an onboarding program whatsoever. No documentation, no nothing. So what I do is very simple. I go on a journey and I record the journey that I take. It's actually that simple. I create a markdown file, like a list, and I go, alright, first and foremost I need to get access to the repository. So I write a header in the document, like a step, get access to repository. And then I create all the steps that I had to take, or what steps did I take in order to get access to the repository. And then I write down, I talked to that person, or I got this access key, or I had to register that account, etc., etc. And then I just go through it step by step until I have all of the access rights, I have all the things that I need in order to actually do my job. And that becomes my onboarding guide. And I add steps to that guide whenever something changes. And then I create, if I am the tech lead, I usually tell the team that we have a rotation now, which is if in of itself a very difficult thing, because people are lazy bums. So you have to sort of force people to do this, because they're never going to do it. As I said, if they don't feel that they need to, they will not do it. So you will have to create a rotation where you say something like, alright, every month we're going to review this document and update the steps. It's still not going to be perfect, but it's going to be a hell of a lot better than the average, because as I said, for most IT companies, guys, the onboarding program there is nothing there. The onboarding program is that you talk to some people that work there, and they might know what is necessary. Most of them might not even know the things that are necessary in order to help you out, because this is not something that anybody focuses on. But I can promise you, when you are on your first few days in a company, regardless of if you're a senior or a junior, you're pretty much locked down until you can get answers to certain key questions, and even the seniors can't figure stuff out. There are so many things that has nothing to do with seniority that sort of has to be part of the onboarding process, such as I said, who do you talk to in order to get access to stuff, and like what are the different systems that are being used. And I mean, you can have 100 years of experience and you're not going to figure that out. It's something that someone there has to tell you. And so that's where an onboarding guide is very, very useful usually. So what I want you to take away from this is that the onboarding program is almost never a factor in most IT companies. It's not something that it's an afterthought for most IT organizations. And usually what you do is that you have someone who's working in the team partner up with you, so you can ask questions of that person, because no one has ever had the foresight to design an onboarding system or anything like that, which is kind of funny, I always enjoy this thought. Why is it that software developers are so good at thinking in terms of digital systems, but they're almost borderline mentally handicapped when it comes to, or like they're idiots when it comes to designing the same sort of systematic approach to human problems? Because there are many organizations around the world who have solved these sorts of issues with like making sure that you do checks and pre-checks and all that stuff. I mean, the fast food industry does it, the airlines do it. Like, there's so many organizations who have like just a checklist of stuff. Like, it's not a big problem, but software, no, not at all. And it really shows, because usually when you are new at a job, that's why I tell people, get yourself a mentor, try to find someone who has domain knowledge early on, because you're going to have so many questions. And if it's not written down, which it usually is not, and usually it's out of date as well, it's going to be very tricky for you to find answers to your questions. And even if you are a senior of 20 years, you're going to get stuck, because even though you might know the coding really well, you don't know about where everything is, where like all the accesses are, and like the different information that is specific to this company is. You're gonna need someone to help you out. And if you do want, as I said, a tip on how to create an onboarding program, it's actually very simple. All you have to do is to go back to basics and say, all right, I start my first day right now. What do I need to do in order to get set up so I can start working? And then you just write each step down that you do and make it a checklist, and then put that checklist in the code, ideally as close as possible to the repository code. And then you try to create a monthly rotation. I usually just put a reminder saying that each month you go and review that, so you still have the right checks and like the right steps that are necessary. And that in of itself, just that simple thing, like writing down all the links that are important and all the different URLs that you have to visit, etc., is going to make a enormous difference for every single person who joins your company. Have a great day.